Welcome, my fellow lovable, amazing, beautiful Toastmasters. I'm so happy to see you all here. 1 second. Let's continue. I changed the view. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Sonia, Lenka, Bernadette, Havran, Tessa, and Havran number 2 with his second device. I'm glad to see you all here. Today we have a special occasion that we will be talking a lot about tea. That's right. We're gonna be talking tea. Now, first question, did you bring your own tea to this meeting? Now, raise your cup if you did. Lenka, Sonia, Burns, okay. Havran, that's a pocket with tea. That's not an actual tea. And Tessa has tea as well. And I do have mine back there. You just have to believe me. Let's get to it. So, why are we here today? We are here today because we have an amazing community with great members who are doing their utmost best to just get better at what they are doing, right? And it might be online entrepreneurship, it might be work-related stuff, it might be just getting better with other people's relationships. I mean, that's something that we do here as well. You see, like we build relationships with each other. I can tell you that I have a pretty good relationship with every one of you attending, right? Kinda, some of you at least. I hope so. So that's what Toastmasters can provide as well. Now, I see that we are all Toastmasters here, so I will skip the details of what each role consists of. We understand the timer, we understand the general evaluator of Lenka Tarapkova. I am the Toastmaster of today. The only thing I will tell you about is the agenda for today. I started. You see me already speaking, right? After me, I will introduce Sonia, who will have her speech about the history of tea, the tradition of the tea, and basically everything she could dig up on tea. Funny stuff, this speech was supposed to be 7 minutes, but she was struggling to keep it under 10. So as a Toastmaster of the evening, I told her, have 15, just so we are in time. I'm so generous as a Toastmaster of the evening that you know me, I would just give myself to everybody. After Sonia, we will discuss what we just heard. It's not necessarily a panel evaluation, but it can be. You are welcome to share your opinion on Sonia's presentation. But the focus is more on discussing the idea and our feelings, not necessarily feelings, but what we think about the speech and the history and everything that we just learned about. After the panel discussion, I will introduce Havran, our main speaker of tonight's evening, and he will not only talk about tea, he will actually show us a traditional Chinese, I think it's Chinese, tea ritual. Like when people sit in cross-legged posture and they pour tea over 1 hour through one cup to another and they pretend like it's important and it actually has a meaning. Yeah, that's what Havran is going to do for us today. And I'm sure he's going to tell us a very good reason why he does that and why do other people do it as well. Let's get to it. Sonia, please tell us about tea, everything that you have learned and everything that you have found out, and enlighten us.
Hello, everyone. Let me share the screen.
Just to clarify, it's 15 minutes, 12 to 15.
Yeah, it's 10, and then I see that it's 10, 14, and 15 is the last one for the colors.
Basically 15 minutes.
But yeah, the end and the red one is on 15. Hope you can see my presentation and me somewhere at the bottom. That sounded weird. Hello, everyone. Let's start the story. And every good story starts with some beginning. You know it. The legend says, then in the year 2737 before the Christ, so very, very long time ago, a Chinese emperor Shen Nung was sitting behind a tree, almost like a fairy tale. I'm hoping there was a sunny afternoon and he was waiting for his afternoon drink. He was sitting beneath a tree, which in Latin is called Camellia sinensis, and he was waiting for his cup of boiled water. That's a story. You might not know, but the leaves, by an accident, light breeze, fell into that boiled water and gave it a flavor. If it's true or not, we don't know. Unfortunately, there is no written evidence. It's just a legend. What we know is the fact that the China is really an origin of a tea. The first evidences were found around 100 years before the Christ on the burial grounds. There were jars which contained leaves. However, the important time, which we should remember, is the Tang dynasty. There were years between 7th century till 10th where it was ruling, and in this time or this era is tea becoming a national drink for China. There is even a first book dedicated purely to the tea. It's the end of the 8th century. The writer is Lu Yu, and the book is called, and now excuse my Chinese, Cha Xing, or I will stick to English translation. It's called Tea Classic. And it talks about different teas, what it is coming to the tea ceremony, and similar stuff. Why I'm talking about the tea ceremony is the thing which was developed in a different country. However, the tradition starts somewhere around these 8th, 9th centuries, where the monks coming from Japan for studies in China were on their return bringing home something new, something amazing, fantastic drink, tea. And as we know, it's not only China who has their own national drink, it's the Japan and their tradition of tea ceremonies. So there are already two countries with the really deep-rooted traditions for a tea drinking. It's still a very long time ago. And you might wonder, what about the Europe? Well, you need to wait. Unfortunately, you need to wait not just a few years, you need to wait a few centuries. Because the first mentionings at the Europe as a continent are only from the 16th century at the end, and they are coming from Portugal. Portuguese missionaries or the travelers were going to a far east where the Portugal had their colonies and were bringing, once upon a time, something strange. You put it into water, it's called tea, whatever that is. The important is a different nation. They are Dutch, and they are first ones who officially delivered tea from China to continental Europe. The year, which should be written in all the papers, is 1606. And the delivery is coming from a port on Java Island, and it's through the Dutch or through the Holland. It starts the story of a tea in Europe. At that time, you know it. It's something fancy. It's a very fashionable drink, only for the poshest of the posh. And when I'm talking about posh, you can think, where are the British in this? Because there is no one else who could be posher than a British person. Well, if you're looking for trouble, search for a woman, as it says. In this case, she exists. She is a Portuguese princess, she is a tea addict, and she is a wife of a British monarch. Her name is Catherine of Braganza, she is Portuguese princess, and as I mentioned, a vivid and very avid tea lover who is married to Charles II. And thanks to her, the tea is introduced to this tiny little island next to Europe. Thanks to her, the royal court, the upper levels and classes, the middle levels and classes, the gentlemen in the coffee houses and the ladies at home discover tea. It's in the year 1658 when is published the first advert in the newspaper, inviting everyone to sample this China drink called cha, or as the other nations call it, Thai or tea. And it's supposed to be something super. Well, British are curious, and they are curious and they love something. And when they love it very deeply. It just simply means that over the very few years, there is a first order for the import of a Chinese tea. And it's only 1664 when there is an order for 100 pounds. Oh, you could say, huh, what's that? Well, in the next few years, that love for tea grows so immensely that even the government realizes that, hang on, this is popular thing, let's cash on. Because the popular thing comes with a price. In this case, it means tax. Very simply said, if it's popular, let's put a tax on it. We might get something to the state money and state cash. It was a nice thing, a nice thinking. However, it meant that the British were not only enthusiastic to drink it, they were as well enthusiastic to smuggle it in. Because it's not only about the royals and the upper classes, even the middle and lower classes realized that the tea is the it thing of the century. It as well meant the establishment of a huge crime network and £1 million of a tea, which is legally and illegally getting into the country. And when I'm talking about millions and millions, I'm really meaning millions. We're talking about 5, 6, 7 million pounds of a tea, which is getting yearly to a tiny island of Britain. Of course, part is going legally, part is going illegally. And that what's coming is the fact that, well, some parts are not that good, something is punched. Well, there are some other herbs mixed in to make it more available. Maybe the price is going to be cheaper. Some are more colored. Well, the sheep dung is used as well. You know, all the practices that could help you to get something in and to spread it across the vast majority. Government at the end got clever, and there was a gentleman called William Pitt the Younger who decided that enough is enough. He simply decided that price of 119% for a pound of a tea is just way too much. So in the year 1784, he slashes this down to 12%. Guess what? No more crime networks, no more smuggling, because now the tea is available to almost everyone. And when I mean to almost everyone, I mean almost everyone. So the royal court has a tea party, the lower classes have a tea party, everyone is enjoying their tea. Oh, I mentioned the tea party. I think you know one very important tea party. And in case you are not remembering that correctly, let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about Boston. I think that's the most or well-known tea party in the world. As I mentioned, The government wanted to make loads of money from the fact that there is a chance to cash on the love of Britons for their tea. And in 1773, there is a Tea Act or a document for East Indian Company to import the tea directly to the American colonies, but of course, with some hefty pricing. There are 4 ships which are sailing out: Dartmouth, Eleanor, Beaver, and William. And in early November of the year 1773, they reach Boston. However, at that time, the American colonies were already quite unhappy with the fact, oh, we're paying the tax for this, and we are taxed on that. And there is a tax on that. We don't want it. And the British Empire said, okay, we abolished quite a few of them, but we're leaving the tea tax. So when these 4 ships full of tea cargo got into the Boston Bay, the Bostonian says that, no, you are not offloading. You either are offloading it without duty or you are not. After weeks of heated discussion, it's the evening of December 16. And based on what the newspapers wrote, there is a band of a man who disguised as a Mohawk Native Americans and entered the ship. It's not a violent protest. There is no violence, there is no crashing, no shouting, nothing. They just opened, and now you can hear it, you can write it down, 342 boxes or crates. They opened the boxes. Where is the tea? Only the tea. The rest of the stuff is left on its own. They open the boxes of tea and they throw it over the board. After 3 hours, they leave the ships and they go home. Next morning, they return and make sure that the tea leaves floating in the bay are not collected by the fact that they are just trying to push it with the oars from the vessels down underneath the tree or the water level. So much for the story. You might say, what they were doing? Well, it's a small start. What they did is the little start which ignited a fight for the independence, which ended in 1776 in Declaration of Independence and creation of the United States. So maybe standing between a man and his tea is not a clever idea. Just my warning. Let's move forward, maybe to a better times. In the 19th century, the already mentioned East Indian Company realized that not only the debacle at the now US grounds is costing it money, but as well losing the monopoly for tea is having a problem, or a big problem for the income. And in 1834, they decided to move the tea growing to India, to area called Assam. And only a few years later, it's year 1855, the import to British Empire from India is the first year bigger than the import from China. Might be the lower prices, who knows? But when in the year 1901, the import from Sri Lanka is joining the import from India, I would say that the overall rule of the tea across the whole British Empire is done. Every British person has got in his, hers vein the tea flowing. The tea is so important that during the Second and First World War, the government takes over, and among the rationing of the food, there is a rations for the tea, because the tea is becoming a morale boosting drink. Well, last but not least, what's important in the 20th century is the tiny little thing, which I'm just right now pulling out of the tea. It's called tea bag, invented at the beginning, but in the 1970s, I think it took the world totally over when the Britain accepted it, and every tea lover in the tea empire of the United Kingdom now drinks the tea from a tea bag. Is it the end of a story? I would say no. However, there is one thing which I was talking about at the beginning, and I was using two words, and that might be an interesting thing. I used the word tea because the Brits use it mostly, but I used as well the word cha. And you might be wondering why we call it with two different names. And here is a little explanation. So the leaves which are transported by the land are called cha because they are mainly originating from the Mandarin area of China, while tea, which is imported through the sea, is coming from the area of Minnan Te. So that's a short picture or small picture where you can see the different colors where the people are using different words for describing technically the same thing. And in case we want to be really proper and add their whole world, then I'm going to show you this last picture with the colors. So whatever you call it a tea, or you call it cha or chai, as we call it in Slovakia, just make sure you tonight enjoy it to the fullest, with or without the tea bag, as I'm doing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia, very much for an interesting speech. I had no idea I could learn so much about tea in so short time. Interesting stuff. All right, I'm opening panel discussion / evaluation. Whoever would like to speak is welcome. Just raise your hand. Just raise your hand. Just raise your hand. Nobody? Tessa.
Don't be shy.
Okay, I really loved the information and the way you put it. I really like the time slot, you know, from the whole beginning before Christ in China, how it originated. Then you continue and then you came into like present time. It was amazing. What I would recommend you, maybe engage us more in a way, ask us a question. For example, do you like tea or coffee in the beginning? Or whatever. I know that's not a proper question for today's meeting. So you can come up with a better question than I was able to do. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Tessa. Anybody else who would like to speak their mind? Lenka.
Well, I will take it from a little bit different point of view since it's a discussion, and I also hope that I can ask a question to the presenter. For a tiny bit of time, I was not listening because I had a call and I didn't catch the history of tea bag or the information about tea bag. Could you please tell me very shortly what you mean with tea bag or what is behind the tea bag?
The tea bag was only invented at the beginning of 20th century. And even though we think that it would be a British invention to make their lives easier, it's not true. It was invented in USA and it didn't gain too much of the attention at the beginning of the century. The big explosion, I would say, in the usage started in 1970s, where in this case now Britain, realized that, hang on, there is some invention. Oh, look, it's a tea bag full of tea, which we can put in a hot water, makes our life easier. Wow. That's the whole point, that strangely, it started on a different continent. It came back to Britain and the British people realized that, yes, that's the awesome thing. I would say we never realized how good the tea bag is, how it makes our life easier. I know that Havran will tell us more about how to do it properly with the loose tea, but in case you don't have a time, the tea bag is the savior. Tessa?
I wish to add to discussion, as we are having discussion now. What do you think about ecological value? Would you go for a tea bag, which is not reusable, but can be made out of paper, which is okay? Or would you go for like metal thing that, you
Yeah,
know?
the little, like from an ecological point of view, it's definitely better to use the loose tea and use either the small sieve or something to pour the tea or the water through it. As you said, the tea bags are made of primarily, there is some paper and hopefully there is some string, hopefully cotton, yeah, as Tessa is just showing us, plus there is probably some paper end. And if you want to be really ecologically thinking, you should be thinking about the fact that you should separate it, because the paper end should go to the paper. You should open the tea bag and the inside should go to compost. You should compost it because it's a plant. And the rest should go to a normal communal trash, because technically it's damaged and it's not something you can probably not recycle too much. Plus, there is a question that the tea bag itself, what is it made from? And that's hardly ever possible to find out if it's really a helpful or good thing. So in case you can, it's wiser to go, if you want to be ecologically thinking, then you should go for a loose tea.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for brain stimulating and idea conjuring conversation and discussion and everything that we can call it. We will continue with our amazing, lovely, with a great hairstyle and a, what's another word that's great? Smart shirt. Yeah, smart shirt.
Smart.
Havran, who will show us the traditional tea ritual. He will tell us about it. He will teach us how it's done. What else will you do, Havran? The stage is yours.
How many minutes?
Up to 20, I think.
Up to 20. No idea how long it's gonna take. I will try to keep it simple and fairly short. We will see. Before I start talking about the different types of tea,
Havran,
and
Your audio is really bad.
Havran, your audio is bad. Can you
my
try?
audio is bad. What about now?
Rapcito.
Is it better?
No.
Give me a second. One more chance.
We give you a second. Everyone can now
What about now?
lift. Okay,
Much clearer.
much clearer.
Okay.
Cheers.
Can't do anything better than this one. So before I go over all the different types of tea and stuff, I will go over what I do have prepared for you in here from the practical presentation. So this is how the traditional Chinese tea is served. This is called a tea boat. It's basically a wooden table, and as you can see, it has holes. Underneath the table, there's a little shelf for catching the water. So even if you spill over, it's fine. I do have some loose tea. It's an oolong, and I will tell you more about what that means in a minute. But I'm going to put all my tea into the teapot. It's not all. Give me a second. Now it's all. As you can see, these leaves have been crushed a little bit and made into a little balls, and they will open up after I pour hot water in them and let them do their magic. But first thing we need to do is check out how to prepare this tea. This one should be done in between 3 to 5 minutes with water that is between 80 to 90 degrees Celsius. I already prepared the water, and so I will pour, I have some water on my table, whatever. I will pour water in, that's why I use tea boat. I will need to clear that. I'm pour watering in here. I'm going to start a timer for 4 minutes. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is preheat the cup I'm going to be drinking from. So I'm going to pour hot water in here as well. And the hot water, I'm going to close this so it ferments a little bit. The hot water will heat up the cup. And when I put an actual tea in the cup, the cold cup will not take away the temperature from the tea, so it will make it stay warm or hot for longer. Regarding the little cute animal, we will get back to that later after like 3 minutes when this is finished. So now I should probably clean this up. I don't have any tissue. Well, I do have some tissues. Give me a second. Okay. So, a little bit of tea. You heard history and how we got tea. Now, the difference between serving a Western tea and Eastern tea is basically in the function. The Western tea is more functional, while the Eastern tea is more about the spirituality and the philosophy and poetry and stuff like that. One of the more interesting things I've learned while doing research is that it is not certain. However, it is thought to be true that British use milk with their tea because of the teaware. Because the glaze in the porcelain cups could crack if you pour hot water over and over and over again. It is believed that they poured milk first and then hot water with tea into the cup, so the glaze will not crack and your beautiful Chinese expensive teaware will stay in a good condition for a long time. They mostly drink black tea. And what's the difference between black, white, and green tea and other types of tea? We will get into in a minute. On the other hand, the Chinese or Japanese tea and their tea rituals are to have a sit down, have an experience. You are basically doing a long ritual and experiencing the tea, trying to get in all the smells and tastes, and it sometimes takes from dozens of minutes to hours. That's a big difference between the traditional tea in China or Japan and in Britain. What is special about Japanese tea is, well, they do love their traditions a lot. As you may know, Japanese people are quite strict about their traditions. So when I was okay, my tea is done, so I will once again for a second, drop here, and then explain the rest of the Japanese tea. So this cute little animal is called a tea pet, and it serves two purposes. First, in traditional Chinese tea, it was either Buddha or some animal based on the what's it called? The Chinese animals that are based on years of your birth.
Zodiac.
You know what I mean? I can't remember the name from the top of my head.
Zodiac.
Yeah, zodiac signs. Thank you. The second reason for a little cute pet like this is to have a companion to drink tea when you are drinking it alone. There are several things how you can offer a tea to your tea pet. One of them is after you're done heating your cup, you can give your water and after the leftover tea to your pet by just pouring it over. Now, when the cup is heated, we get the tea in, and there are some leaves. That's okay. I'm not going to put any sugar or any sweeteners inside. Now look at this. You've seen how small these balls were. Now you can see the tea leaves actually opening up, and it's an actual leaf. And the difference between these tea leaves and how they are prepared is based on the color of the tea. The white tea, these tea leaves are almost not mechanically worked at all. They are basically just good leaves cut from the tea tree and put in the bowl and poured hot water over. With the green tea, there is a little bit of mechanical pressure put on the leaves, just a little bit, so the aroma of the tea gets more out. Then there is black tea. With black tea, you're really putting a lot of stress in the leaves. And after black tea, you have oolong, which is this one. It's mechanically, it's something between the black and green tea, but the other thing is that for white, green, and black, there is no traditional fermentation process. On the other hand, oolong does have a little bit of fermentation process of the leaves, but not too much. That's pu'er. Pu'er tea is tea that has gone through the fermentation process, and that's why pu'er is very well known for its very strong aroma, and it basically tastes like dirt. It's very popular with some people, not with me. Now, each tea type has its own temperature to work with. With the white tea, you're usually going around like 60-70 degrees. For green, 60 to 80. And the black tea, you are using boiling water, which is 100 degrees. Now, if you have a good tea, good leaves, usually it's for white and green, you can do something like this. You can still reuse your tea leaves by pouring more water in it and doing a second run of the tea. It's going to be a little bit less aromatic, but it's still going to be good for drinking. You cannot do this with your tea bags, obviously, because that's one-time use, but with a good traditional tea like this, you very well can. Now, about the Japanese tea. Japanese really do love their traditions, as I said. And you can see that all throughout their culture, with blades smithing, like making katanas and tantos and stuff. Teaching a traditional Chinese ritual like this to enjoy tea at home, you can learn the basics in here, basically, going to your local tea place. If you want to learn traditional Japanese tea ritual, you're going to be learning for 5 years and more. They have, I'm not going to pick up this, they have exact hand movements you have to follow, procedures you have to follow. Almost nobody does this today, obviously for practical reasons. But it is something that it's still not forgotten, even it's not used in such quantities as in past. Another interesting thing about tea, as Sonia mentioned, is most of the tea is from either China or Japan or India. But did you know a lot of modern tea is coming from Africa and South America as well? I see some of you saying yes, some of you saying no. So next time you're going to buy a tea, check out the country of origin of your tea. You might be surprised where it comes from. And not to leave out our European tea traditions, we cannot officially call it like a tea culture, because obviously to call it tea, it needs to come from a tea tree in the form of tea leaves. But for dozens, maybe hundreds of years in the Europe, we were drinking hot beverages made from leaves or berries or fruits. Even if it's not a traditional tea as per se, I believe each and every single one of you really enjoys an apple tea or some herbs tea in the winter. So the thing I want to end this little presentation with is, do not let anybody tell you how to drink your tea, because there is no one single right or wrong way how to do it. Everybody can do it their way. You can pour milk first, you can pour milk last. You don't need to even put milk in your tea if you don't want to. You can put in honey, you can put in brown sugar or white sugar or no sugar at all. You can do a like 3-hour-long ritual with your little teapot, or you can just have a granulated tea to eat your tea cookies with. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you're going to enjoy it either alone or better with your friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Hauram, very much for your speech. Now, I have a question for you, and that from what I knew until today was that when it comes to tea, the difference is that white tea is not fermented, green tea is fermented very little, black tea is fermented the most. That's what I understood until now. What you are saying is that neither of those are fermented.
In a traditional way, yes, they are not fermented. Even it is called a fermentation process in the tea community, but it is not a fermentation as we know it. There is some degree of post-processing with the tea leaves, grinding them down mechanically, and the level of that mechanical grinding is what tea people call it the fermentation. So in a sense, yes and no. White tea is not fermented, green is a little bit, black tea is fermented, but it is not a fermentation. The true fermentation only comes in with the pu'er tea.
Okay.
That's like if you're fermenting fruit to make alcohol.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you for explaining that to me. As you mentioned, the tea today comes from Africa as well. I know that from a personal experience because 5 years ago I visited Tanzania, and while traveling through the country, I happened to have a walk with my guide around tea plantation, and the guy said, "This tea plantation, it makes jobs, it employs 4,000 people." I'm like, that's a lot of people for a tea plantation. Well, yeah, that's all manual labor. I'm like, damn. So yeah, we do have tea plantations all over the world, but you do need very specific climate for it, I assume. Now, let's open for discussion and panel evaluation and everything else that you would like to tell Havran. Who would like to go first? Sonia, I knew that.
I love the presentation. I love the tea bed. Now I finally know why that thing is there. I've never really, like, I've seen it before. I know that tea boat is there and it's supposed to, you know, drain the water, but I never knew what that little thing is there. And in case you are watching some YouTube videos, you know that whoever is China or Japan, they usually have those tiny little beds somewhere in the video, and it's there, and I never knew why.
Yeah.
Now I know that it might
It's a
be
friend
somehow
and companion,
connected.
and it's really cute and everybody loves it.
I know it's cute, but I never knew why it is there. But now I know that in case I'm drinking on my own, it's my companion and I can pour the water over it. I knew that there are different times for pouring the hot water or the temperature of the water itself, but it was good to know and remind myself that what are the rules, let's say it. But I know that the Japan is taking it slightly over the board, and for some of us, it is just most of the day just put the tea bag and put the water in, and that's it. But I find it interesting that they still are having their rituals and they are still going through, even though I'm not sure I want to study something for 5 years, so I know that I need to hold it like that or I can hold it like that. Important is that you're supposed to, when you are drinking, you're supposed to have that little finger up so you are properly British. And that's, I can't do it with my big mouth, but you know, you can imagine it. That's the only thing I do remember. Yeah, Tessa is showing it very correctly. Yes, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Thank
The
you.
only thing you need to remember when preparing tea from leaves is the temperature, because if you're going to put hot water over white or green tea, it's going to be bitter. So you really need to either get a thermometer and or a special kettle that can just warm up the water up to a certain point and then stop, or leave it cool down for a little bit before pouring it over, because then it's going to be bitter and you're not going to like it.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
green
I
tea.
don't like my tea that I made before the meeting. It's bitter as hell.
Is it green by any chance?
I think it is green, but it said, what did it say? It said oranges and something. I don't know what was it, but it is bitter. I think I what's it called? Overdone it. Yes, that's the word. Welcome, Damian and Vivian. Guess what? You just missed the main event. And Havran was so good.
Just
How
I-
I speak about it, it must be wonderful. I think.
All right,
Tessa is raising
Tessa.
her hand.
Yeah, I see.
Thank you so much. Havaran, I really like your presentation. I even like the visuals. It was amazing to see it, how it's done properly, what I need on my table, and really how you talked about the different kinds of tea. Thank you for the information. To improve your presentation itself, as Sonia mentioned as well, for example, this little toy, imagine asking us, what do you think is the purpose of this? You know, and we can guess and we can get engaged a lot, and then you can say, no, it's not the reason, or something like that. Or try to guess what is the correct temperature for example, you know, and for how long has the puer has to be like fermented. There are many questions that you can ask next time and maybe engage us even more. But thank you so much.
Sorry, I am here. I just needed to jump away for a little bit. Okay, it's a different position now. So we shall continue with our agenda for today. And since we don't really have any panel evaluation besides timekeeper, I will leave Bernadette to tell us about how we did with our time today.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So for Toastmaster Sonia's time, she's supposed to have around 15 minutes to deliver her speech. Her actual time is 17 minutes and 12 seconds. Then for Havran, you have 20 minutes given allotted time. Then your actual is 15 minutes and 39 seconds. So that's the time. And I have some comments about both of your, if given the time, both of your speeches. For Toastmaster Sonia, it would have been nice, because I like the presentation. It would have been nice to add some animation with the voice, like say China. Then you have some Chinese accent a little bit, just add, and then some British accent later with the hand or the pinky out. That could really get everybody's attention. And for Toastmaster Havran, the only thing that I really would like to see also was when you talk about Japanese tea, you could have said about a little bit about how they practice, like when they serve tea, there's something that was floating in their tea, and if it's standing up, it means there's a good omen, that's a good sign, and if they're down, that's a bad sign. So Japanese believe in those. Just add a little story, but other than that, those are great presentation, guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Burns, very much for your time evaluation. You have helped us a lot today since Tessa had some technical issues. Nobody knows why, nobody knows when, but that's how technical issues happen. You know, exactly when you need it to work, it doesn't. That's life. Our last part of today's evening, is going to be Lenka, and she will evaluate our entire evening. She will tell me how I've done. She will tell Sonia how she's done. She will tell everybody how they've done. And I'm so looking forward to that because Lenka has amazing evaluations. Lenka, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Peter, for the word. And I just hope I will live up to your expectations, guys, tonight, because I can say that meeting was tremendous. It was great. And I had a huge portion of information about tea, and I enjoyed it very well. I will give my evaluation, what I like, what I would like to see improved for the next meetings and speeches. First, I will start with Toastmaster of the evening, Peter. Peter, I loved how you start the meeting with high energy. I loved your humor, and also at the beginning, you improved the way how you looked into the camera. I didn't feel like the angle was better right now. I liked how you introduced the agenda as well, and also how you introduced particular speakers, what they are going to speak about, and you gave them the word. and introduce them to the stage. What I would like to suggest for the improvement, at the beginning you said I will skip some introduction of the roles and some information because we are all experienced members and we all know that. Well, that's true. However, let's do it differently. Let's not skip it, but just do it differently in other way, or you can ask us about this stuff and make us more involved in this beginning or at the beginning of the meeting. And just at the end of the meeting, I would recommend it. I know it's comfy to say or to lay on the bed. However, I would like to see you or look at you similarly the same way from the beginning till the very end. Just a small improvement for the next one meeting. However, I loved your Toastmastering tonight, and I said that you were more relaxed and you enjoyed it much more, and it was really a pleasure to look at you. We had 2 speakers tonight, and both of them did perfectly. Sonia, I liked your excursus to the history of the tea. I particularly like the transitions from the history to Europe. I like your humor. I like your hand gestures, eye contact, and also facial expressions. That was very well how you use your hands and how you express the feelings through your face. That was really great. The share on the top is how you use the presentation, that there was a huge picture behind you and you were a tiny little bit of you just in the presentation. That was really good. I was so surprised to see it at the beginning. I see that you made a huge improvement in the way of online presenting and using this. If you have missed, just subscribe here and you will get more and more information. I love that very much, and I see you are much more bigger or closer to this state of presenting online. Also, I like short sentences, and I have just one way how to make it better. It's with these slides. When you use the text, instead of text, because you are so clever and you can learn all this stuff, just use pictures, like the tree picture with this emperor falling leaves into the cup of the hot water. Just the pictures, and you are so good at depicting the story and imagination that we can see it. We can see it. That's really good. The second speaker, Havran, I like how you explain the difference between Eastern and Western way of drinking tea. I like how many information you gave and how you explain also the reasons why we put milk into the tea. This was a mystery for me as well. I didn't understand it. Now I know. Thank you for that very much. I also like your vocal variety. There were some parts where you were using vocal variety when you had shortened sentences, and when you were explaining, you were speaking very slow, which is really good because I could listen to you and I could think what you are talking about, and that gave me time to remember what you are talking about. This was well done. I loved your visual aids and the conclusion at the beginning of your speech. My recommendations are 2. The first one is regarding the structure. Try to tell us at the beginning what are you going to tell. Then tell it in the presentation, and at the end you can summarize it, or you can just give call to action as you did. Just drink the tea in the way you want. Don't look to anything else. Just bear in mind the temperature, the right temperature. So prepare the structure like something interesting at the beginning. Then you may tease us with this tea serving plate, and you did amazingly with this little pet. That was really great, and I love that you used another device and helped yourself with this presentation. This was really, really, very good, and it adds so much to the presentation. It's like, okay, I don't have to be at your place, I can see it. It's amazing. You conveyed the message and also the picture, the imagination very well. I like that. Okay, then we had panel discussion and the feedback discussion, and I liked this part as well. Maybe I mixed up or messed up this part when I asked the question as during the Q&A session, but never mind. I love that we had space to ask the questions. This made it more. It made it better. We could ask the questions, and I loved her, Sonia. I love the way you explain something, and then you summarize the main idea at the beginning. It's like you talk, and then at the end you answer the question in few words. That's great. I like it very much. And Havran, you also very well answers. You are answering the questions from the audience also very well. To the point, it wasn't like arguing with the audience. It was well done. And the last role we had tonight is the timer, who is not here. But Bernadette was doing her job as well, very well. And I like how crisp and sweet the report at the end was. What was the time, how much time we used, and she wrapped up her presentation with the feedback, which was really good because we had time, or at least I think. And I would like to wrap up my presentation as well. This tea ceremony and tea history was excellent, and I'm looking for another meeting with similar or any other different topics. Back to you, Peter, if you are here.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you, Lenka, very much. Now that I think about it, we actually didn't have an opening question. So do we need an ending question? No?
We need, and we want picture. We need the question and we want picture.
Okay, hold up.
Before you think of an ending question, I'm going to share one more picture with you.
Oh, I already thought of the ending question, don't worry.
How those tea balls were small before I poured water. This is how it looks after.
That's pretty interesting. That's like a full cup of leaves.
Yes, it is a full cup of leaves, and they are actual leaves. Opened
Oh
up.
my God, actual tea leaves. Wow. Sorry, Avram. Okay, the final question for today. What surprised you today? I will start. What surprised me today was when Havran told us, now it slipped my mind. Oh my God. Okay, I will skip for now. So, Sonia, what surprised you today?
What surprised me today? Definitely that explanation of that little tea pad on that tea boat. As I already told Havran, I've never knew why it is there. Now I know that it's my companion. So that was a surprising thing, that finally I know why it's there, and I can crush it next time.
Okay, my mom is calling me. I need to pick this up. Please continue, Teresa.
Oh, thank you. I guess it was me. I'm not sure. Thank you very much. I think that the fact that I'm here surprised me because I was quite busy for today, but I was looking forward to this meeting. So that's why I'm here, and I really liked it. So thank you.
Perfect, Tereska. I will ask Tessa straight away, so we have both crotarium parts done.
Thank you so much for the word. What surprised me, I would say the amount of information that I was able to receive today, because when I was coming here, I was not expecting such a, it was not like overload. It was overload, but in a good way. I was enjoying it. That's it. That's it. What surprised me today.
Perfect, thank you. Lenka?
Well, it's difficult to say what surprised me. I liked the meeting very well, and I could expect these excellent speeches from both of you. So it was like, okay, this was expected, this is perfect. And what surprised, oh yeah, one thing did surprise me, that Havran has this cheese serving service. That service to serve the tea.
T-boat, okay, with the stuff, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Sonia, for helping me out here. It's difficult to not pick up a phone when your mom is calling. You never know what's up. I will continue. What surprised me is when he poured the water. Okay, first thing, when he warmed the cup, I never saw that. I never seen that before, that you need to warm the cup for the tea, right? But makes sense, I guess. And then he poured the warm water over the statue. And I'm like, nice. I didn't expect that. We'll continue. Tereska went, Tessa went. Damian, you haven't been here. That's everybody then. But Damian, you are not off the hook yet. Has anything surprising happened to you today?
Today, yes, sure. That I see all members of Entrepreneurship Toastmaster in one place. Surprising. Sometimes one missing or two people.
Okay, thank you. Vivienne, are you here?
Yes, information about the was very interesting.
It definitely was. I recommend you watch the recording when we put it on YouTube. Okay, I am stopping the recording now. Thank you everybody for coming. Like, we will continue now, but for the video, thank you for watching. Do you want to stop? Yes.